Welcome back! In the last video, we decided what we want the launch's request to look like. Our goal will now be to build out the launch's controller to respond accordingly to this request. Back in our launch's model with our addNewLaunch function, what's next? We're going to take advantage of the code that we wrote and apply it in the controller. So we're going to import our addNewLaunch function in launches.controller.js. So let's add that right here below getAllLaunches. And our corresponding controller function, which handles our requests, is going to be HTTP addNewLaunch. Taking in our request and response, and at some point, what we want to do is call this addNewLaunch function, passing in our new launch data. The launch data, which will come back through our request body. So because we've added in app.js our JSON parsing middleware, our Express server will now take JSON requests and populate this request.body parameter with that parsed object. So we'll set that to be our launch. And now remember our launches model and that launch date for our mission. Ideally, we'd store it in this JavaScript date object. That's a good starting point whenever you're working with dates. There are more advanced libraries like Moment that we could install from NPM, which allow us to add and subtract dates and work with time zones. But right now, let's not overcomplicate things. What we do have to deal with, though, is that JSON, as it's passed in our API, doesn't allow you to pass around date objects. Instead, the recommended approach is to pass the date as a string and convert it into a date when you process it in the API. So what we'll do is just like what we're doing here in our example launch. We're going to take the launch.launchDate property and we'll modify it to be equal to the date object that's created by passing in that launch date. So new date launch.launchDate. Now, whatever value is passed in as that launch date, whether it's a Unix timestamp, which would be a number, or a string containing a formatted date, launch date will now be a date object. And when we add our launch to our map, our dates will be stored accordingly. So what does our controller return? Remember, when we post to a collection and the request succeeds, we want to set the status to 201, which means created. And it's good practice when we create some data in our API to return the data that was created so that the user knows all of their data was processed in the backend. For example, the date was converted properly. So in the success case, we want to return the JSON object for the launch that we just added. And we want to return just to follow the same practices that we've been using up until now to make sure that we only ever set the response once per controller function. Let's test things out. First things first, we need to export HTTP add new launch and add it to our launches router. It's going to be a post request dot post, and again, it's going to be under /launches with the HTTP add new launch function as the request handler. But notice how all of the routes in our launches router are all gonna have this /launches as part of the path. We might change the HTTP method and we might add something afterwards. For example, it's possible we could get just the upcoming launches or just the historical launches. And we could also get a launch by ID. But the first part here is always going to be the same. So there's a cleaner way of doing this. In our app.js, we can make use of the fact that Express allows us to mount our middleware on a specific path. Let me show you what I mean. If we pass in a path before our launches router, say /launches, just like our requests that match the path for that request, we can also say that this launches router will only react to requests under the /launches path. And what this means in our router is that now we can make things a little bit shorter and less repetitive by just saying / for our get and post routes, where the / means that we're matching the root of the path where this router has been mounted. And all that means is that we're matching /launches and then /, where the / here is not going to affect the matching. So this get route is going to match /planets and also /planets/. It's just that we have to put some string here when we define our endpoints. All right, so this should be a fair bit cleaner. Let's just do the same for our planets /planets, and our planets router now no longer needs to include that part of the path. Very nice. Let's start our server and go into Postman. First off, let's make sure that our routing change works. All right. We're getting our one hard-coded flight. And let's see that we can get our planets. Looks good. What about our new mission? What happens if we schedule 0 to mastery 155? Let's go. Check it out. 201 created, our request succeeded, and our response contains the object that was added to our launches map. Our flight number has been incremented correctly, and it looks like our date has been transformed into the JavaScript date corresponding to the string we pass in. This is a really good start, but we're not quite at the finish line yet because, well, our code is a little bit fragile. What I mean is, what if I pass in hello as the launch date and I try to create a new launch? Well, we still get the 201 created and our launch date is null, which is going to cause problems when we try to launch this mission. The last thing we need when scheduling interstellar missions is to miss our schedule. We absolutely need to do something about this. We'll take a look at adding some validation and improving our new Launch API in the next video. And we'll add this new launch functionality to complete the killer feature for our NASA Mission Control dashboard. Let's take a short little break, and I'll see you really soon in the next video. Bye for now.